Well, today we're going to dig out the polymer clay and we're going to make some Anaheim peppers and some slices of the same peppers. So stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, so here is our subject matter for today. We are making some Anaheim peppers. And it's funny because usually I at least have an idea of what I'm making for the Saturday video by about Monday. It's Thursday and I just figured this out this afternoon, what I'm making. And I figured it out because I was cleaning the produce that I bought at the grocery store this morning. And this is the pepper I bought that I actually need for my dinner tonight, so I need to hurry up with the video. But this is the Anaheim pepper. And I know I haven't done Anaheims. I maybe have done bell peppers, and I'm pretty sure I've done jalapenos. But we are going to do this Anaheim pepper today. I love the shape of these. I love the color of these. In addition to the fact I love cooking with them. So let's get a measurement on this guy. They're so long. So this is, he's about 7.5 inches long, and the diameter is almost 2 inches at the top. So it's a good size for us to make in miniature. And they come in, this one was in the middle of pretty much probably the top third size range in the store. There were a few bigger and some smaller, but they were all about this size. So my first job was to find some clay, and I ended up mixing colors. So here's my clay. I'm putting my pepper off to the side in a safe location. I would have mixed this on camera, except my daughter called, and she has a tendency to talk for like an hour or more at a time, and she calls multiple times a day. So I started out with Fimo in tropical green because I wanted to use Fimo. I'm hoping that later in the video we'll make some slices. I'll see if I can get them to work with this. Sometimes I can get it to work with the clay, sometimes I can't. But I'd like to show you how to make slices, and we'll at least do some chopped ones. So that was obviously not quite the right green. So then I added some of our yellow Sculpey that I bought for our Clay 101 videos. And then I went and got some Sculpey in camo green because I wanted to dull it down. And then I added just a little bit of a white clay just to lighten it up again. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to make a fairly small snake, because we need to pre-bake some stems. We have the stem with a really good curve to it. So we're going to roll out a snake, and I'll show you how I'm going to do this. And it doesn't have to be completely, you know, all consistent size, because the stems are sometimes thicker and thinner. So I'm going to get my paper plate that I'm going to bake on. And I'm going to kind of just lay this on here pretty much kinked up. I want it to bake in such a way that I'll be able to cut some interesting shapes. And I may, in the end up having to make more of these. And if it curls over on itself, that's fine. Some of them have that. So I'm going to go bake this for 10 minutes, and when it's baked, I'll come back, we'll cut it up, and we'll start making some peppers. All right, so this is straight out of the oven, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it while it's, because when it's hot from the oven, it's a little easier to cut. And some of these spots are a little thicker than I probably should have done them, but they'll be okay. Let's leave it like that. And do watch, these will have a tendency to fly away from you while you're cutting them. And as the clay cools, it's more apt to jump around on you. All right, let's put those off to the side. I'm actually going to wipe my blade because my blade is a little kind of gross feeling. There we go. Get it cleaned up. So now we are going to make so I'm going to look at that in my hand. Okay. I know that I want this probably about 1/8 of an inch in diameter and approximately 3/4 of an inch long. And that's gotten a little too thin. That's probably about right, yeah. So let's cut some pieces. That's about right. That one's probably fine. They don't have to be exact. In fact, you know, you look at the peppers at the grocery store, the farmer's market, or on the plant or whatever, they're going to be different sizes. And that's fine. That's kind of what we're after here. A little smaller. All right. Now, I'm going to start by taking one of these. And they got a little fat, but that's okay because yours can be. And we need a little bit of TLS out here, actually, now that I know it's going to go in there. Just put a little bit of translucent liquid Sculpey on the end of your stem. Kind of bring that up around it. And I want to take, I guess I'll just use a toothpick. Now, I'm going to get a little bit of cornstarch. Because cornstarch will make my fingers a little less sticky, so it's a little easier to deal with. And yeah, the pepper in real life is not round, but most of the time when I make these in miniature, I do make them round, simply because it's just easier. But I do want to add those little folds, at least on some sides. And I usually just use a toothpick or something of that nature. My dental pick for this job is just a little bit too narrow. All right, and they don't have to be straight. Some of these curve a lot. I'm gonna make this one a little bit fatter at the top end. That one's a little too small. Okay, let's go with you. Let's work with some of the skinnier pieces. The one thing that these peppers all have in common is that they are skinnier as they get longer. Like that curve on that guy. Let's get my paper plate over here. So I'm going to do one more on camera, and then I'm going to do some more off camera. And when I get them all done, I am going to bake them on the paper plate for 10 minutes. When they're baked and cooled, I'll come back and we'll take a look. So let's do one more. Oh, let's use this really cool stem. So I've got this stem here that's nice and curved. Love that one. The TLS works as a glue. Anytime you're attaching anything other than raw clay to raw clay, it helps to, I managed to break that, but that's okay because it's still a cool stem. It helps to use the TLS to glue it. Then when it bakes, the TLS forms a bond. So, and I do have a brand new set of dotting tools that I ordered, and they finally came. So let's pull one of these out. At the other end. All right. Okay, I am going to turn the camera off. I'm going to make several more peppers. I'll get them baked and then I'll come back and show you how they look. All right, so here are the whole peppers that we made. I think they turned out really cute. Those are going to look great once we get them finished. But let's make some slices of the same peppers. So for that, I did a little preparation. It's actually the next morning from when I filmed that. I don't know how I got white clay on there. But you're going to get a little tiny preview of tomorrow's video here because this is a technique I'm going to show you tomorrow. I took our green clay because I wanted this a lot firmer today than it was yesterday when I made the peppers. So I laid it on this piece of just plain white paper, it's a piece of printer paper, and it leached out a lot of oil. Now my clay is a lot firmer. This is the same clay we used for that. Then I took, this is a little softer because I mixed some of this with white this morning. This is about 1 part white to 3 parts this green because we want 2 layers of color. You could add a little bit of yellow if you want, or a little translucent. If I was going to add translucent, I would have to wait a while in order to film because I'd have to leach out the oil again. So what I've got here are 3 short pieces of 20 gauge floral wire. This happens to be the kind that's painted green. It's what I had, and I actually prefer that for this because sometimes that uncoated wire can stain when you use it for things like clay. So I'm going to take the lightest of the 2 colors. I'm going to take my clay roller and I'm going to roll it as thin as I can. And I'm not going to worry about those ends because I'm going to cut those off. I don't need a lot. This is going to make a bunch of pepper slices. So I'm going to take my 3 pieces of wire. They're really hard to pick up off of my tray for some reason. And I'm going to lay 2 pieces of wire down. Don't push them in too much, but put them down so that they won't move around a lot. Get that you want a little bit of air between the 2 wires. And then you're going to take the 3rd one. Hopefully I'm doing this. Yeah, you guys can see that. I've got the camera backed up a bit this week, hoping that you'll be able to see better. Come on. Right, now my hands are going to start shaking. I did this off camera to make sure it was going to work with this clay, and my hands didn't shake at all. All right, there. Got the 3 pieces of wire lined up. I'm going to cut this a little bit. I'm going to roll it around the clay, around the wires. Use the knife to gently ease this off of the tray. Cut it. And try not to have a huge overlap. You can have a little bit of an overlap because with this, quite frankly, it's pretty hard not to. And then kind of smooth it. But don't push it in too tightly. Now put that clay to the side and take our same color we used for the outside of our peppers. And we're going to roll it really thin again. And I don't need any more than what I've got for that, so let's cut it about here. And we're not even going to use the whole piece that we make. I'm actually going to loosen this from my tile a little bit. Lay this down and kind of roll. It's a little easier on this second layer to get it rolled around because you're not having to keep the wires. The wires are held in place. Okay, managed to cut that. That's okay. It's still going around. Now, we're going to bake this at the recommended temperature for 10 minutes. And for once, I'm not going to tell you to let it cool. We're going to bake this and we're going to come right back over here and then we're going to cut it. So I'll be back as soon as this gets out of the oven. All right, this is fresh out of the oven and it is warm. So be really, really careful. Got a pair of pliers here in case I need them now. This is, like I said, it's warm. So you have to be careful not only to not hurt yourself, but also to not bend or break your tube of clay. Because if it cracks, you're going to have to start over. Once you get the first one pulled out, there. Once you pull out the first one, the rest are going to come out a lot easier, usually. Famous last words. I am kind of supporting this in my hand. All right, now while it's still hot, cut back a ways from the top because the end is not going to be any good. And this does need to be, like I said, it has to be warm. That first cut is going to be a throwaway. But there we have. And each one of these is going to, each time you do this, you're going to have a slightly different shape. And this could be adapted with different size inserts for bell peppers or jalapenos or whatever pepper you want to do. Let me know if you want to see me do some different sizes of peppers. If this gets cold enough that it's not slicing, then put it back in your hot oven, in your 250-degree oven, 275-degree oven, for about 5 minutes so it can get warmed up again. I could even save this and do that and cut it another day if I really wanted to. So I am going to bring you down. I know it was really, you weren't seeing a lot of detail from where you were, but I wanted to make sure you saw what I was doing. And now that we've got this, and there we have some peppers. Oh, and I do have a slice of the real pepper right here, so you can kind of see. These aren't quite as yellow. Whoops. There we go. You can kind of see. They're not quite as yellow, and they're a little more closed in, but I think people will know that that's a sliced pepper if you have that on your display. So let me get this stuff cleared up, and I'm going to get ready to put a clear finish on all of these because peppers, as you saw yesterday, as you can see from this one, they are not a matte color. They've got just a slight gloss, so we're going to use a satin Mod Podge, but just a very, very tiny bit. So let me get set up to do that. All right, I have just a very small amount of satin Mod Podge, and I am going to use a brush. You want a relatively soft brush for this. This is kind of like when we did the lemons the other day. You want to kind of use your brush as much as a brush as it is kind of like you would stir something in a bowl. You want to stir these around and just barely coat them, because you don't want much Mod Podge on here because you don't want too much of a shine and you don't want them to stick. So I'm not even going to use all that I put out. I'm going to show you. I'll show pictures. I did a cane of these earlier too, and I'll show a picture on the blog post to show you that the inside is going to look different every time you do this. So it's kind of fun to do a couple of batches. It's easier to cut when you've got less to cut, as you can probably see, because it has to stay warm. But also then you get varying interiors. So I'm going to wash my brush out. I'm going to let this sit and let it get dry. And once the Mod Podge is all dry, like with the lemons, I'm going to come back. I'm going to move them around every minute or two till they get dry so they don't stick. And when that's done, I'll come back and we'll look at our peppers. All right, there's our finished Anaheim peppers with their Mod Podge coat has dried, and they are ready to put into whatever display you have for your dollhouse. Be sure and check the blog post. There'll be photos over there, and I'll try and talk you through the process, and I'll show pictures of my other set that I did off camera to see if it was going to work or not. One of the reasons I wanted to do a set off camera first is sometimes the clay will work and sometimes it won't. It does have to have at least some firmness to it and be a clay that doesn't crumble when you cut it. That's why I made sure I had at least some Fimo in this blend, because Fimo is a lot more durable clay than the Sculpey 3, and Sculpey 3 has a habit of crumbling much easier, and it's hard to get these little details when your clay is too soft. So if you enjoyed today's video, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of foods would you like to see in future videos? If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, be sure and hit the subscription button and the notification bell so that you'll know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you later. Bye.